From Los Angeles, Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
Wow, I mean, first of all, what a question.
Journalism is about telling the truth, all while ferreting out the bottom line.
I'm a Harrison Hellraiser.
Uh-oh. With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison.
Rethinking Heroes, Cary Harrison with you, your new best friend. Welcome to the Friday show. When we do call-ins later, I want you to be able to not only use the regular telephones, but we have set up a direct feed, as we are now video streaming. And sort of like Zoom, you just click a link, boom, it's a direct call, beautiful fidelity. You'll find that link at rethinkingheroes.com, rethinkingheroes.com, where you will also see a live stream of this video. Now, why are we live streaming in this deluxe fashion? When you see it, you're going to go, Jesus, it looks like MSNBC or CNN. The reason is that's what you get. That's what you deserve. That's why you're a listener. Two, when you're driving in your car and you arrive, now you have to get out and turn off that radio in your dashboard. You can now pick up your smartphone and just continue on the live stream at rethinkingheroes.com, where you can also call in after we talk to our guest. So let's start, because I'm here to share with you today the true crime story of a U.S. military veteran whose public journey has captivated thousands. Now, after returning from a 7-month deployment in North Africa and previously serving in Afghanistan in 2017, this man took a turn, his story, that highlights a disturbing issue in our society: wrongful arrests. Now, you're going to recall recently our exclusive reveal of Hollywood actor Joseph Gatt. You'll remember him from Star Trek, Game of Thrones, just all kinds of different movies. Well, he was accused of having an interstate dalliance with an underage girl. And it was discovered that all of that was the creation of a downloadable AI app in the hands of a teenage girl. Who knew a 14-year-old could bring down a grown man in Hollywood? Well, they can with an app on an iPhone. It took several years for a forensic investigator to unravel the AI fakery. And meanwhile, Los Angeles detectives went after him tooth and nail. And now Mr. Gatt is suing LA for $45 million in his wrongful and improper arrest, and the public, even international, humiliation that this popular actor suffered. Well, hungry cops looking for awards and limelight have overreached since the days of Shakespeare and Machiavelli. The story of this next veteran began upon his return when he was falsely arrested by the Jacksonville, Florida Sheriff's Office. Despite his real service to our country, media reports from this time continue to shadow his career, especially during his regular security clearance evaluations. Those are important. However, this veteran has fought to clear his name, achieving a legal victory against these unfounded charges. Yet the scars of his wrongful arrest persist, a sad testament to the challenges many veterans face. His ordeal reached a head with a baseless arrest fueled by a wrongful accusation of, ready for this one? Misusing military leave. All of which proven to be manipulation of facts. Despite facing intimidation and harassment, including a distressing incident involving his family, Ian Murray stood firm. His legal battle culminated in a settlement, clearing his name and affirming his innocence. As we look at Ian's journey, it serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of justice and integrity, not just for veterans, but for every citizen. Ian Murray's story is one of struggle, it's one of bravery, and now, happily, vindication. But he had to work for it. And you will too, in these times of AI, in these times of other people just wanting to grab the limelight and grab and seize power at your expense. Ian Murray, I want to welcome you to Rethinking Heroes.
All right, thank you for having me.
We're glad you're here. You've been through so much. It's becoming a normal story on this show. whether it's Hollywood actors or veterans. You mentioned the importance of making sure that this doesn't happen to anyone else. We also heard that from actor Joseph Gad. Can you elaborate a little, Ian Murray, on the changes you'd like to see in the legal system to prevent these kinds of injustices?
Well, one of the biggest things I was happy that actually, from what I understand, did happen was the detectives. You mentioned, cops just looking for awards. That's pretty much, I think, exactly what happened in my case. It was a few detectives that were just looking to put another little bronze star on their chart. One of the things I was hoping would happen, and from what I've been told has happened, is they don't just have free reign to do an investigation with no accountability. They can't just take what little information they have, go to a judge and get a arrest warrant signed for somebody under false or incomplete pretenses. They actually have to run it through a chain of command or something like that in order to make sure that it's been done properly and that there actually is merit to their case, which in my case, there was no merit to their case at all.
So let's talk a little bit about what happened. Quite a journey, serving our country in Afghanistan to encountering a crushing ordeal back home. Walk us a little bit through your experience, this horrific, horrible crime against humanity, thunderously violating every possible moral standards. And if people have not been to Florida, they don't understand what a Florida sheriff is like. It's like the ones on TV. Exactly like that, a mouthful of chaw and just ready to kill everything in its way. What was that like? Because you were accused of taking the wrong leave and they came after you.
Yeah, it was very, very bizarre. At this point, when this whole thing began, I'd been in the military for 12 years in 3 different components. I just never in my wildest dreams thought something like this could happen to me or anyone for that matter. I mean, it was just completely out of left field, something that you just never expect. I've had a lot of jobs being in the military guard and reserves. I've never had issues with them having issues with me taking my time off to do my my weekend duties or whatever else might be sent my way. And yeah, like I've said before in some of my other interviews, when the whole thing started, when the detectives came to my house up in Nassau County out of their jurisdiction and arrested me, I originally thought it was a prank. I started laughing. I just couldn't believe it. I'm like, who put you guys up to this? I thought maybe it was one of my sergeants at the jail or just some of my friends I worked with who like to bust my chops at work once in a while. But yeah, when they actually put me in the car and took me to their substation, I saw the actual paperwork they'd done. I'm like, whoa, it's like, this is for real. And yeah, I never thought this would happen, nor did I think it would last and be drug out as long as it did for about 8 years. I mean, it was just unbelievable. It was an experience. There's just really, it's unless people actually see the headlines and see the false narrative, the false media narrative that was broadcast, people wouldn't even believe it if they didn't know, if that wasn't there. When I tell people this story, a lot of people just don't even believe me until I actually show them the news articles and stuff that the local media ran from the false narrative of the sheriff's office.
Right. And the local media, and I dive into this a lot. You know this intuitively, just as a consumer. We all do. We all, I don't know how many times a week I have to answer emails. Where do I find real news? I'm not saying how do I avoid fake news? That's not the question, but where do people find real news? Local TV, as Gore Vidal, the late Gore Vidal said, really what they excel in is hair and makeup. They do cat stories, they do cooking tips, but with gravitas and suspenders like Larry King leaning forward. I mean, it's serious, big metal graphics flying in. And today we're gonna take a look at a pot roast that, and it looks real. It seems like doing a Kardashian story. If you do it with such gravitas and a straight face, it is the most important thing in the world. And so the TV news, they don't have skill sets, critical thinking, a way to actually follow follow it up. They're not in the business of finding out if it's true or not. They're in the business of ratings. They're in the business of taking a military guy and turning him into a thing that people can point at, clutch their pearls, and say, we as the audience have been betrayed. Now, what exactly were you accused of doing that is so horrific that the sheriff, that has no interest in you, by the way, has a sudden interest in you more than any other criminal around, quote unquote criminal?
Well, I believe what they were trying to get me charged with was official misconduct and grand theft, arguing somehow that the hours of leave that I took superseded a certain dollar amount in order to make it a felony charge. And it was pretty obvious from the initial questioning these detectives did that their intent was to fluff this up, to try and make it appear much larger than it was. And they were ultimately hoping I would take it to a lesser charge, which I told them I'm not doing that. I didn't do anything wrong. I have orders to back up all my leave. So I told them, you guys are completely groundless on this whole thing, and I'm not just going to take this line down. So yeah, it was, like I said, it was unbelievable. And
I mean, I just love the idea of grand theft, because you're asked officially to go do something else at the workplace and you have stolen hours that does not even affect the public. It's not like stealing private property, somebody's car. I'm sure it could be argued in some way, but that's really more of a government issue than a local redneck sheriff issue. Pardon me, but I also spend a lot of time in Florida and have to deal with not only governors like DeSantis, but these people that have been unleashed on us to do often really unpleasant things in the name of graft, corruption, and self-centered ways for government officials to be able to seize power, prestige, and property. And that it's always been that way since the days of Machiavelli. Let's talk for a minute, Ian Murray, about your reputation, because this is something we saw with the actor Joseph Gatt. Here's a guy who's suing LA for $45 million, an amount calculated in the losses he would have as a Hollywood actor. For 2 years, they had a gag order on him. So his fans, all they knew is what they were told by the international press, that he had an interstate dalliance with a minor, and no comment from him. No comment from him means it must be true. And so he has still not been able to get his reputation back where it belongs. So he's suing the city for the loss of income he would have had. Your lack of reputation as a military vet, as a guy serving the country, and most particularly your clearance. If you want to do anything, jump on an airplane, get a pedicure, you have to have a decent clearance or you're not working. Am I right?
That's very true. Both my military and my civilian career I work now revolves around me having a top secret clearance. And as I've mentioned again before, I have been questioned about this incident when people are hiring me or considering me for positions of employment.
So your name has been legally cleared, but not after Sisyphus-like boulder pushing up the legal hill. You reached a settlement with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, which of course had to admit, oops. What's the payoff? Who got what out of what? Somebody went to a lot of effort to go through your Facebook, to misinterpret, to sell a notion to the cops for them to go along. What's the upside to that? What was the payoff?
For them, I don't know. I mean, this whole thing started with just a lieutenant I had in my chain of command who did not like me. It was well known she didn't like me on a personal level. I don't know why. I really never dealt with her outside of work. But she had done this to several other officers I've worked with, not to this extreme level, but she was known for abusing her power to file felonious complaints against her own officers whom she didn't have a personal interest in. So I honestly don't think anyone ever expected this to go as high as it did. I heard from some colleagues of mine that even she was surprised that it was continuing on and on for, well over, at this point, it had been well over 2 years when the internal affairs case got cleared. But yeah, I don't know who got what. I do know that aside from my lawsuit settlement, which wasn't that much in the grand scheme of things, they spent just in legal fees from the lawsuit side, my lawyer told me they spent at least $250,000 on city attorney's fees. And that's not, like I said, that's not including the criminal case where they were trying to trump up charges on me. That's not including the administrative case where they had, where one of their detectives was going around falsely identifying himself, spending hours trying to gather dirt on me to save face. I mean, this whole thing probably went up, if I had to guess, probably went up well over $500,000, if not more, for the sheriff's office. That's how much money they spent on this, trying to cover it up and keep it quiet, trying to save face. So, I mean,
well, that's a good value for the taxpayer. So the $80 that you would have cost, the taxpayers paid $500,000 for nothing, and especially something they don't care about, that doesn't matter, that's made up. And do the taxpayers get refunded for that? No. That's the other part. And the reason I'm wound up about this is I keep seeing this every week now. I mean, we get really decent people as guests that are reporting this kind of behavior, and it's just shocking, but it does reflect the times in which we live. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes. You can go to rethinkingheroes.com, catch a live video stream of this, and see our guest, Ian Murray, a U.S. military veteran, falsely accused by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for misusing his scheduled military time, allegedly. And based on drummed up Facebook stories and way more, and despite being cleared of any wrongdoing, the false arrest at $500,000, we find out, continues to impact his career, with media reports surfacing. Good luck cleaning up the internet forever. That's a full-time job right there. These things keep surfacing during security clearance checks, and he's got top secret clearance, and he has to probably explain this at the granular level, and they sit there and they stare and blink, and he goes, no, seriously. You can learn more at ianmurray.net. By the way, Ian, we're going to pause for just a quick second. When we return, we're going to talk a little bit more about what you have to say when the internet keeps yelling the same story. Even though you're innocent, people still don't know. How do you see fixing that up? We're going to get into that because this does affect all of us here in the world. Cary Harrison with you. This is Rethinking Heroes.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
Are you juggling multiple tools to run your online business? Well, thankfully, there's a better way, and it's called Kartra. K-A-R-T-R-A. With Kartra, boosting your income has never been easier. That's because it's the ultimate all-in-one platform for online success, offering every tool you need to grow. Imagine building pages, funnels, courses, autoresponders, and checkouts all in one place for one affordable price. And the best part about Kartra is that you can automate anything. So it's like having a team of experts working around the clock to help you earn more. Ready to streamline and scale? Well, visit rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial. That's rethinkingheroes.com/money for a free 30-day trial.
At Legacy Healing Center, we offer luxurious, world-class assistance for those dealing with addiction or mental health issues. With centers across the U.S., we're able to lay the new foundation for anyone getting their lives back on track. Each individual that walks through these doors receives a personalized approach, designed to build hope and create a long-term solution to lifelong problems. Legacy Healing Center is dedicated to providing the best care and path to success in life beyond addiction. Call today to receive this free book that will guide you through the many questions you have about choosing the right rehab, costs and payment options, what to expect at rehab, and repairing relationships damaged by addiction. Our facilities provide a safe, home-like environment where patients enjoy gourmet meals prepared by our in-house chefs, around-the-clock access to treatment, and so much more. Don't let your legacy be defined by addiction. Find a new path at Legacy Healing Center. Let us send this free book to show you hope does exist. Your call is confidential and there is no obligation. Visit legacyhealing.com.
We are in complete control. We are Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes. Cary Harrison with you. Don't forget to go to rethinkingheroes.com. You're going to get a link a call-in link. Plus, we're going to open up the phone shortly. Take your live calls. I want to talk about not only this kind of stuff, false arrests, people coming after you now using technology. And then let's also talk a little bit about the demonstrations going on college campuses, freedom of speech, et cetera, et cetera. We're going to open up the lines in about 5 minutes or so. So you now know you have two ways. One, analog telephones. Yeah. You can call 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Or you can go to rethinkingheroes.com. Click a link. Works just like Zoom. Boom. You come up and then it's peer-to-peer. Beautiful, delicious stereophonic audio, not a phone call. So really awesome. Rethinkingheroes.com, where you can also see video of this show live streaming right now. We're talking to Ian Murray, a U.S. military veteran, falsely arrested by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office for allegedly misusing his scheduled military time, costing the taxpayers $500,000 of mayhem and chaos, all based on drummed up Facebook stories and way, way more. Despite being cleared of any wrongdoing, the false arrest continues to impact his career, with media reports surfacing during security clearance checks. And you can learn more at ianmurray.net. Ian, here you are now, continuing to work, continuing to be in the game. The internet is still roaring. How are you coping with this in a way that people are now listening to you, shortcutting it so they get this is not a problem anymore?
Well, I mean, it's difficult because it's just something, as much as I'd like to forget about it and move on, it's just very hard to do. I mean, like I said, this took up so much of my life. Prior to this whole thing happening, I think I'd had one speeding ticket in my entire life. And that was back when before I even joined the military. I've always made it a point to maintain a good lifestyle, live a good moral life, not break the law, not get in trouble, so that I could have the kind of jobs I've had, even working for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. And it just it continues to blow my mind that this happened. But the biggest thing that helped was having a very good support system. When this whole thing happened, a lot of people heard about this through the media coverage. I had people calling me. They're like, dude, what the hell? Like, what's going on? And I'm like, I have no idea. The whole thing was a shock to me too. And that's even how members of my military command found out. I was about to leave on a training assignment to go out of state for 3 months. And I think that's why the detectives jumped the gun and decided to come arrest me without even finishing their investigation, because they had waited. They would have lost their jurisdictional authority to arrest me when I got back. But yeah, it just blows my mind that these guys were actually willing to ruin my life in order to just put a little bronze star on their chart and then continue to ruin my life to try and cover it up. It's like going to the Sheriff's Office Academy. We always got these lectures on ethics. If you make a mistake, own it. The consequences will be less severe. Yet all these people that made a mistake, not one of them at any point ever admitted, yeah, sorry, we made a mistake. They just decided to try and cover it up. I mean, it continues to blow my mind. But fortunately, like I said, I had a good support system between my family. My military command went shoulder to shoulder with me. They fought against Jacksonville Sheriff's Office on my behalf and said, we're not going to let you do this to one of our guys. That was probably the biggest saving grace, was the people I had behind me.
I'm going to walk back Ian Murray and apologize for referring to basically all sheriffs the way I did earlier. It's just been my experience just dealing with people. There are many of the ones that have done to you what you've done, but you're also an example of the not version of that within the correctional system. So we're lucky that there are folks like you, and we don't get to hear your voices that often. So this is definitely a tonic to us. Let's talk for a second about your 20-year journey in the military and how it has shaped your perspective on perseverance and resilience here.
Well, that's one thing. When you join the military, you learn how to persevere and be resilient. That's one of the basic fundamentals that I learned in basic training back in 2002 and 2003 when I first joined the military. So fortunately, I've always had that mindset most of my adult life, as I was only 20 years old when I went to basic training. But I mean, thank goodness I had it, because a lot of people, and I was told by senior members of the Sheriff's Office when this whole thing was going on, so many people the sheriff's office has done this to people before and gotten away with it, from what I was told. And it's just because people can't fight it, or they don't want to fight it. It's just, you know, it's easier for them to just give up and take some kind of a deal and tarnish their name than it is to fight it. And to me, that just was never an option. I always said to myself, I've worked too hard to get where I'm at, to be who I am. And I'm not going to sell myself out just because a couple Keystone cops wanted to put their name on top of a list somewhere. You know, that was never going to happen.
And we live in a post-capitalist paywall society. I didn't make that up. I heard that from a financial guy yesterday I was talking to, and I said, that's brilliant. We live in a post-capitalist society where everything has a paywall. At least with capitalism, whatever anyone thinks about it, you could opt out. I don't like it. Too expensive. I'll get the other one. It's cheaper. Like nothing. You can't opt out of anything anymore. There's just a paywall. People pay 80 grand to get a certificate saying that they went to university. And it's the same thing now with anyone in power, is they need that little extra star, that little tick on the box to make them stick out and be special and have extra power. And so it sort of mimics itself in the civilian world, in the official world, in the whole world. And we're all sort of coming around to it. We just don't really have the language yet. Your courage, Ian Murray, in speaking out against injustice is admirable. We all love the music of that. What message do you hope to convey to others who may be facing similar struggles?
Just don't give up. If you were being wronged and you know you're being wronged, stick to your guns. Don't give up. I mean, don't be afraid to ask for help if you need it. Because when this whole thing happened, the people who I thought within the sheriff's office that were there to help me, they were not there to help me. They were there to help the sheriff's office. So like I said, I had to reach out and just kind of grab onto whatever lifeline I could. Fortunately, I got a good lawyer. You know, like I said, I had to ask for help from friends and family who, I got some odd jobs, extra duty days from my military unit. But yeah, that's the biggest message I have, is just, don't let people trample all over you. You know, the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, it's a huge agency. They can be very intimidating. And obviously they are willing to abuse their power and size in order to try and force their way down people's throats. But I didn't back, you know, I just said no. I fought it to the bitter end, and I did not give up till I got the end result that I wanted.
And Stormy Daniels is the only one that clearly has any expertise on people trying to force things down her throat, and it feels the same way, right? Yes. You obviously, I know that was inappropriate, but we both are laughing, and it's beautiful.
That's a good one.
Finding a good attorney, that's tough. That's a full-time job for you to find one that gets it. What's kind of interesting and nice is to find out that the military side of things, they're the ones that would really, truly have objected had it been real. They're like giving you work. They've got your back. They're being supportive. That's important. So really, this is a local problem of a bunch of ambitious guys. But the military itself is, we like this guy. He's been around 20 years. He shows up on time. He's polite, flosses his teeth. You know, let's keep going. And thankfully, you've got that still. And I think the more you do, and the more interviews you do, and the more you're out there, the more you're going to help other people in this potential predicament. Do you feel that media used in this way, where you actually get to say your side and expose and discuss the history behind it, do you think this is going to have an effect on sheriff's departments like that in Jacksonville, where they're going to pay a little more attention instead of overreaching like that?
Well, I do believe so. I'd like to think so. I wish this kind of media would get exposed like the mainstream media, like my name falsely did when this whole thing happened. I wish it was an equal side of the story type thing, you know, where, you know, it would have been nice if the media had said, okay, we're going to give equal coverage to the truth of the matter. But obviously they're not going to do that because, again, you talked about the whole money thing. They get most of their coverage from the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office. So if they were to go against the Sheriff's Office, they would lose a lot of their coverage, and they wouldn't be able to generate the type of probably the revenue they do, which is sad. But again, like I said, they have already had to make, just off my case, from my understanding, they've had to make policy changes. And yes, I hope this kind of stuff does get back to them, and they you know, they do know that people are willing to speak out against them, because yeah, this whole thing was just, like I said, it's just unbelievable. It was such a disappointment. I moved from 2 states away to come work for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office because I heard they were such a great agency to work for. And it just blew my mind, not only this incident, but almost from the first time I was hired, they just seemed to have some sort of disdain about me being in the military. It just, unfortunately, was a bad experience. So, I mean, if that is another piece of advice. If you're a military reservist and you're thinking about going into corrections with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, I would highly reconsider it. There's a lot of other agencies out there that do respect the military, that do appreciate you having to juggle 2 career fields and what you have to do in order to honor both career fields. It's not just a weekend vacation. There's a lot more into it than just showing up and hanging around. We actually do work. There's a lot of requirements I have to maintain in order to be a reservist, especially in the particular field I'm in. So, yeah, just like I said, I really do hope that my story does help other people at this point. That's what I really would like, is just to see that, even if it's just one person hears it and fights up, stands up and fights against the injustice that they might be happening to them in a similar instance, that they, if that one instance were to happen to me, that would make all this worth it.
It's a hypothesis here, but I feel that the issue with the military for local cops is they feel like Barney Fife compared to a regular cop. You come in with all this elite training, real battlefield experience, everything else, and they're riding around in cop cars, drinking beers. I mean, it's just regular people, local people, and you're kind of the elite guy. So they have to put you down 78 pegs so that they look a little bit better than you. And these are the kind of tricks that people do, as one would when they're 12 years old.
It's funny. It's funny you mentioned that, because when this whole thing was still going on, I was actually at training for my specialty out of state. And when the internal affairs detective found that out, he actually called the training facility I was at just to try to get me kicked out of the training. There was nothing, it had nothing to do with his investigation. He just called to tell them what was going on, that I was under an investigation for this and that I'd been arrested. So, I mean, I got pulled out of my training environment to have to explain it. So, I mean, yeah, what you just said I think has a lot to do with the mentality of the people that I was victimized by.
Well, I appreciate your coming on. I mean, it's classic. We go back to Nathaniel Hawthorne, the Scarlet Letter, Hester Prynne. All you have to do is point and accuse, and the community goes, okay, and nobody bothers to look. And so you have to look for yourself and self-advocate. So I think you're also a great lesson for all of us to learn how to self-advocate, and you can win. You can prevail. It's hard work, but now you, Ian Murray, have a new skill set that you never imagined you'd ever need or want, but you can help others self-advocate during a time when a lot of madness is erupting. So you're triply useful in ways you'd never imagined as a kid. And I appreciate your coming on today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a real pleasure.
For us, too. Ian Murray, a U.S. military veteran who was falsely arrested by the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, where he happened to work, for misusing his scheduled military time, allegedly, based on drummed-up Facebook stories and way more, despite being cleared of all wrongdoing. The false arrest continues to impact his career. It's all over the internet. Media reports, local media reports surfacing during security clearance checks. It's an ongoing battle, but he has prevailed. A story of resilience and of self-advocacy. You can learn more at Ian Murray. That's spelled IANMURRAY, IanMurray.net. Cary Harrison with you. Let's open up the phones. You can give us a call. Let's talk about these kinds of things. We can also talk about demonstrations happening at a college campus near you. In LA, we have a college campus near us in every single direction, don't we? Are these Gen Zers, and are they all crazy, or are they onto something? Is enough for people? Where is the limit? What is the threshold? I want to hear what's going on with you in the geopolitics, in the world, in the life, in the fear, in the AI that you deal with. and I want to hear it now. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. That's 818-985-KPFK. If you don't want to use an analog phone, you're streaming this from anywhere in the world, you could just go to rethinkingheroes.com, click the link, and it's a live connection right to the show, minus an analog telephone. Rethinkingheroes.com, rethinkingheroes.com. We'll continue in just a tick.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Rethinkingheroes.com.
Do you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS?
Then get on board with the Tax Admiral and let us steer your way to financial freedom.
Helping people clean up their mess with the IRS.
If you owe $10,000 or more to the IRS, are facing an audit, a lien, or levy, then call me right away. You're in charge with the Tax Admiral. Call me now for your free emergency consultation.
Call 855-898-0188.
At Legacy Healing Center, we offer luxurious, world-class assistance for those dealing with addiction or mental health issues. With centers across the U.S., we're able to lay the new foundation for anyone getting their lives back on track. Each individual that walks through these doors receives a personalized approach, designed to build hope and create a long-term solution to lifelong problems. Legacy Healing Center is dedicated to providing the best care and path to success in life beyond addiction. Call today to receive this free book that will guide you through the many questions you have about choosing the right rehab, costs and payment options, what to expect at rehab, and repairing relationships damaged by addiction. Our facilities provide a safe, home-like environment where patients enjoy gourmet meals prepared by our in-house chefs, around-the-clock access to treatment, and so much more. Don't let your legacy be defined by addiction. Find a new path at Legacy Healing Center. Let us send this free book to show you hope does exist. Your call is confidential and there is no obligation. Visit legacyhealing.com.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. Rethinkingheroes.com.
And it is Rethinking Heroes, rethinkingheroes.com, where you can go and click a single link that will bring you up and allow you to make a what would be like a phone call, but it works kind of like Zoom. You click the link, boom, you're in the video, you're right on like that, and we'll see you too, which is exciting. So all your other listeners can enjoy your beautifully, impeccably well-manicured face, such as it is, such as mine is, as we live stream also on rethinkingheroes.com. Also, our phone number is 818-985-KPFK, if you want to do the old way, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK. I'm going to play you a little piece of AI as people queue up. Richard in Pasadena will be with you in just 1 second. This is a piece of AI to artificial intelligence. I know there's people that are, my grandmother would say, you know, I keep hearing AI all day, every day, and I nod and I smile. And she would say to me, what is AI? Artificial intelligence, meaning the computers are imitating, replicating, like our guest we had a couple of weeks ago, Joseph Gatt, the actor. It was an app he downloaded on his smartphone that created fake conversations between a celebrity and a teenage girl. And she reported that as a real chat, and you couldn't tell because artificial intelligence is that good. Here's one from an English friend of ours listening in England, sent us this of Donald Trump, enhanced by AI. If you're watching the video stream, it is marvelous to watch because the lips actually match. This is scary. They can do this to you. So let's enjoy, in quotation marks, a little AI of Donald Trump talking about his recent courtroom problems.
They keep saying I'm sleeping in court. I'm not sleeping. You know, this trial is nothing but a witch hunt. Other politicians pay off porn stars all the time. It's a standard order of business when you're rich like me and have fingers in lots of pies, especially the cherry kind. My favorite flavor. Stormy Daniels said I have a little mushroom cock, and that sex with me was the worst she'd ever had. It's lies. It's fake news. I can tell you that if I'd had sex with her, I haven't had sex with her. I've never even met her. If I'd had sex with her, it would have been the best experience of her life. And I've been with a lot of women. I guess I get told I'm naturally very good looking. I'm strong on looks. And I can tell you that all of the women I've had sex with have been very satisfied. Most say it was the best sex of their life. My cock isn't small, it's very big, actually. Some women say it's too big. My cock is huge. I don't have a small mushroom cock. But this Stormy Daniels case, I never even met Stormy Daniels. It's all lies from the Democratic elites. It comes straight from Obama, and it's simply not true. It's fake news. It's election interference. But if you look, I'm leading in the polls. We are seeing the biggest assault on democracy in the history of America, of the world, maybe. We are seeing election interference on a scale that's unimaginable. Kingpin Joe Biden of the Biden family crime gang is trying to steal this election through voter fraud like he did in 2020. But no, boss, no, because we're not going to let him. And I am hereby calling on all patriots who love their country, who love America, and who love the Bible. I love the Bible, so it's the greatest book ever written, maybe after The Art of the Deal. I am calling on all patriots to rally outside polling stations on Election Day to ensure justice and democracy and truth, our truth, to ensure that justice and democracy stand and are heard. Because they're not heard, no. Biden is running this country like a dictatorship. And in this election, it's freedom that's at stake.
Now, if you're just listening on the radio side of things, you can't tell that that is not absolutely real. Of course, it's so marvelous. I added a little music just to make sure it didn't sound like an actual news clip. But a lot of that was AI generated simply by cloning his voice. And this guy in England put together the different words, and there it was. And it sounds exactly like him. They, whoever they are, they can now do that to you. And this is what happened to that actor, Joseph Gatt, where he's now suing Los Angeles for $45 million. These kinds of things are coming down the pike. You need to know about it. This is why we're bringing you up to speed, because you don't know what you don't know. You do need to know this kind of stuff is out there. And while that part was fun, if you're the recipient of it, it's double plus unfun, as the late George Orwell would say. 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, or you can go to rethinkingheroes.com and click a link and jump on the phones. Let's say hi to Richard in Pasadena. Welcome to Rethinking Heroes.
Hey, thank you, and thank you for all you do, man. You make a difference for this veteran. I was in from 65 to 69, and I'll tell you, I am beside myself with us losing this thing. The people not keeping their oath with the Constitution just drives me crazy. But anyhow, what I'm calling about is I was there for I was young for the 50s student movements, and then the 60s I was 20, and then the 70s and 80s when we really got after the apartheid thing. And I just, as we see what's going on today with the administrators still being Gestapo and with the faculty not having learned from those years, those decades of unrest, that there is a way to do this thing peaceably. And I'm going to be going out to a prestigious college today to talk to them about it. We can do this whole thing now, learning from what they did back then when they're getting cracked over the head, and then Kent State and Salazar getting shot here with a grenade in the head by the sheriffs. That stuff doesn't need to happen today with just a little bit of information, education, and what we learned from what was going on back in those decades ago. So I'm going to be talking to some some faculty members today and some students. And we're going to do our best to make an example for the other campuses. It doesn't need to be this brown shirt thing. It doesn't need to be.
Yeah. Thank you for doing that education. Of course, they weren't born. It's not taught in history classes, I'm sure, Kent State.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Some of the faculty was around.
Some of the faculty were, but, they don't want to get in trouble either. And so they're just going to repeat the mistakes of the 1960s because they don't know that it ever happened. This would be the students, and the faculty just don't want to get dinged for having any kind of opinion, being politically incorrect, using the wrong pronoun, whatever is going to get them in trouble through this. They're going to step aside. That's another weird time we're in, where even the teachers have to be so agnostic about something when their students have critical thinking. They literally live in a situation of critical thinking. You show up every day, you're told you must have critical thinking if you're going to get an A+. They're critically thinking. All they're asking, really, all of them, is for the school to divest from spending money and investments in military chaos. But that's not what everyone else thinks is happening.
This thing is possible. And hopefully Monday, it'll be all around the nation with how to do it peaceably and get the results. We didn't get the results back then. We did get the apartheid broken up down in South Africa, but the rest of the results we did not get. And it was traumatic as all hell. And we need to not have it be traumatic. Thank you so much. I really appreciate all you do.
Thank you, Richard. I very much appreciate your call, and I'm glad that the phones are working great. So you do have two options. You can call in at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735, 818-985-KPFK, or you can go to rethinkingheroes.com, click on the link, and just have a direct input on the show, plus your video, your smiling face, and you can also see mine smiling. I will smile for you when you come up, that I guarantee you. We're talking right now a little bit about the protesting. What does it mean? And what is it like to be a Gen Zer who has no historical reference or background to Kent State? At the time, I guess there were black and white films of John Wayne riding a tank, just all this ridiculous kind of let's bring Hollywood into this to show how bad it is that these students are protesting. And the teachers, of course, are scared S-lists for that, much as you cannot, as a professor or a teacher in many of the universities now, even talk about climate change without getting into trouble. I mean, it's shocking. In the state of Florida, where Ian Murray, who we had on earlier, a veteran, had been falsely arrested and accused of, misusing his free time, costing the taxpayers $500,000 for a wrong $50 accusation. In that state, it is illegal for any teacher to mention climate change in the entire state of Florida, the third most populous state in the nation, the most important swing state, a population of some 28 to 30 million people. It is illegal under a state law to say climate change in a school. You will be arrested. It is a third-degree felony and more. And this is a serious problem. I want to know your thoughts on this. Does this conversation about climate change, about what's going on the Gaza Strip, is this freedom of speech? Should freedom of speech be, as smartly we know through our own great American, Henry David Thoreau, who is the father of nonviolent resistance? This is an American concept, later taken and refined by Mahatma Gandhi, then later taken and refined by Dr. Martin Luther King, an American concept that actually liberated India from the British, an American concept, nonviolent resistance. Teaching that, making that freely available to students so that they can effectively get this done without getting their heads cracked by batons. We have no control over the appetites of the cops unleashed. I mean, they're sending SWAT teams. I mean, seriously. Little Timmy out there, it's so appalling. But I'm just curious about where you think free speech ends. This is not yelling fire in a movie theater, which the Supreme Court has been clear on. And yes, starting a stampede and crushing everyone, that's no longer freedom of speech. That's a kind of weaponized mayhem. Is this weaponized mayhem saying just stop killing people? Where is that fine line? Let's go to Charlie in Northridge at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. Welcome to Rethinking Heroes. Hello, Charlie.
Hi.
Hey there.
Yeah, I wanted to talk about the weaponization of arresting people.
Yes.
So, about a week and a half ago, Green Party candidate Jill Stein was at a peaceful protest. I think it was in Ohio, and a line of police came up, and the police had bicycles, and they ran into the students, including Jill Stein, who was arm in arm with the students, and knocked them over and knocked Jill Stein over, and she hurt her head. And then they arrested her, and they had charged her with assaulting a police officer. And if anyone looks at that footage online, you'll see that she was arm in arm with other people and pushed over with a bicycle, hit with a bicycle. So she's a candidate for presidency of the United States for the Green Party, and here she's now sacked. Now she has to deal with this, of being charged with assault on a police officer, which was an obvious lie. So I'm just so tired of seeing police weaponize arresting kids to stop the movement. And that's my comment.
Let me ask you, Charlie, because you're clearly a smart guy with great observational powers. Take a 21-year-old girl, put her next to a fully militarized police force person of whatever stripe they may be, some kind of SWAT team with tasers, assault rifles, brass knuckles, flak vests, and a 21-year-old girl in a little mini skirt. Which one is more likely to die if there's a conflict?
That's really true. And I think every kid who goes through this is going to be so traumatized by how the police are now weaponizing. We don't have to wait for Trump. The police are weaponized all over the country to try and suppress what's happening, which is a worldwide student movement to stop the genocide of Gaza. And so all of these kids who are exposed to this it's going to change their life forever, especially if they were arrested. And their life is changed because of the arrest. Once, as your guest said, once you get a record like that, you have to explain it for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And Charlie, if you're a traveler, I am. I travel a lot internationally. I'll be doing some shows from Europe this summer. I have global entry, which means I can come back from now Mexico and Canada are considered foreign, not even part of North America. But when you come back into U.S. territory, there's something called global entry, which is just a little card, or they'll just do a biometric scan, and you basically don't even have to show a passport. You are just back home. They know everything about you. If you have an arrest like that, forget it. TSA pre-check, forget it. Even getting tickets on certain flights internationally, including especially Canada, forget it. And it can affect your car insurance. It can affect every area of your life, including renting a car, if you have an arrest for something like this. Because the penalties now and the reach of these things ripple. And what they do is they train you to just limit your personal range of motion. Much like in radio, back when I started, we used to have real free speech. We could bring on and talk about all kinds of topics, no matter how controversial, and it was considered part of the dialogue of education. Then we had to learn how to self-censor because so-and-so advertiser, this is like during the old days, might not like that you're saying that, but we still were able to do it anyway. Now you have a federal, a local, a state punishment for talking about anything they don't want you. And they, of course, are making money off of something. It goes back to the old Watergate formula of follow the money. Who's making the money? Why don't they want these kids to talk? And we know the sheer volume of cash. Look at Germany now. I mean, this is so perverse in a way. The United States is supplying 60+% of all weaponry that is being supplied for the Gaza conflict. Germany is filling in all the rest. Germany is supplying all the other weapons, 30-something% that are going to the Gaza Strip. The Germans, the Luftwaffe, all of it, the Germans are manufacturing like they're back at it again. And again,
all of the students out there saying, the Jewish students protesting, saying, never again, we can't do to the kids and women and men in Gaza what was done to us. They are now legally, by the United States lower Congress, if they say that if they criticize Israel or criticize Zionism, just criticize it, they're breaking the law now. I mean, what student who believes in free speech is going to go along with that, to be criminalized for just talking about the possibility that the Zionists have become something like the Nazis, or even not to that extreme, just to question anything about Israel or Zionism is now against the law.
Thank you.
The law hasn't passed, but it's passed the Congress.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's bizarre. It's discernment. Like, do you prefer ketchup or ketchup? They really are different. But the idea of even discerning between the two can get you in trouble these days, and it simply shouldn't. Richard, I want to thank you so much for your call. Very much appreciate it. We may have time to squeeze in one more at 818-985-KPFK, 818-985-5735. And really, let's not niggle around over, is it Zionism versus that? And a lot of people don't know the difference. So without breaking down, what is the difference between someone's religion and someone trying to expand their imperial footprint? And you have to remember, what does the U.S. get out of this? Well, our largest weapons dump, and they call it in the military, our largest storage facility for all of our weapons, airplanes, tanks, nuclear missiles, bombs, are sitting in what country? Israel. So it is for us a giant military base. And so it makes sense that we are protecting our giant military base. Does that make it right? No, not necessarily. If that base happened to be in, Greenland, we would be doing the exact same thing in Greenland, and people going, what? But it's because that's where the storage is. And we don't have friendlies surrounding anywhere in that area, especially around Israel, because there are not friendlies in the Middle East, given the 80 years of fun, frolic, mayhem, and merriment that the Brits and us did, especially after Bretton Woods in World War II, where we flipped the tables of the power tables around. So here we are. But you'd think, you'd hope, you'd pray that CNN, that MSNBC, that Fox, that Newsmax, I don't know what the even crazier ones out there, but you'd think they would break down the fact that this is actually going on, that these are actually, let's call them real estate projects with vast investments going on, that there is also $6 billion worth of untapped oil in the Gaza Marine, and that oil companies are poised up to exploit that oil and fuel Europe with it, thereby, like a chess game, removing Vladimir Putin's grip on Western Europe, because he runs the oil. He's tripled the price. He's making a fortune, and they are reliant on his oil, which is why countries even like, Germany and France saying it's going to be a cold winter. This oil comes out of the Gaza Marine. It rescues them. It removes Vladimir Putin's grip. This is assuming that we don't have Trump in there as president. This is the Biden administration's current geopolitical ploy. And all of that actually has an end game and reasoning. But if you never tell anybody in the country why or what, all they're left with is, I don't get it. And I keep seeing footage of a lot of dead people, and nobody's bothering to explain it. So this is our job. This is what freedom of speech looks like. And we now know we do it at our peril. And I want to thank you for joining me. I want to thank you for being brave. I want to thank, when this show renders into a podcast, it becomes an illegal book in about 5 states in the Deep South. That's kind of sexy if you ask me. You can get a copy of this video at rethinkingheroes.com. You can get like and support and share all of our podcasts wherever you get your podcasts, and keep this free speech alive, because one of us has more than one testicle here. And I think that's Renee, our technical director. I also want to thank of course. I also want to thank Gary Baca in the control room at KPFK. And I want to thank you most particularly, dear listener. I know it sounds like 1753 in that eloquent thing, but you're amazing. Without you, there is no me. Without me, we don't have a place for you. So together, let's move forward. And I will look forward to seeing you next week.
Listen while it's still legal.
Rethinking Heroes with Cary Harrison. RethinkingHeroes.com.